הנתפסת עד העידנא, הפך כליל את עינו מרוב שיבושים והשמטות. He says, essentially, there were many errors in the previous publication of the Charedim. Ve'en lecha amud she'eino lokeh b'chaser v'yater. There's not a single page of the old editions of the Charedim that were filled with errors. Hashmatot mikorin mikoran al pi rov b'ta'ut hadomot v'diduk hashurot ve'ilu hashibushim novim v'ikar me'irav l'shanot Yerushalmi. He says, okay, anyway, the bottom line is, he says, we've published the Sefer HaCharedim anew, but he doesn't tell you who the author is. I know that there was another place where he writes the name, the commentaries. I think if it's not at the beginning, then maybe it's at the end of the Sefer. I know that he had, no.
Got a couple of pages here. It says Mefarshei HaYerushalmi.
What? Tell us what page it's on.
After Hakdama B'Seder Ryan.
And it goes through all the.
Here it is. Here it is. Got it. Okay, I see it now. So it's Mefarshei HaYerushalmi. There are very few Rishonim, right? You have yeah, for some reason there's no page on it. Where the previous page is Hakdama L'Maseches Berachos, and then the following page is Mefarshei HaYerushalmi. And then if you look at Charedim, it says Rabbeinu Eliezer Azkari, or Al-Azkari, because he was from an Arabic Spain, I think. Mechaber Sefer Charedim Kosov Perush. So he dies in the year 360, 5360, which is we're at 5-7. So he's about 400 years ago. Kosov Perush L'chol Seder Zroim Ulaod Masechtos Min HaYerushalmi. Okay, so all we have left of his commentary is Maseches Brachos and Maseches Beitza. He says he brings the Sefer Charedim many times will bring the commentary of Rashi and other commentaries on the Vilna Shas when there is something relevant to be, to be cross-referenced. So that's the benefit of the Sefer Charedim. I find him on Brachos to be so far the best, but I can't say that I've done an exhaustive comparison contrast. Okay, so here's what we're up to. We're up to Rebbe Ze'ira on Beis Amud Aleph. Rebbe Ze'ira b'shem Rav Yirmiyah. Suffolk, and by the way, we're entering into a new subject, which is if you have a suffix, whether you've actually made a bracha or not. In the Birkas Hamazon, if you're not sure whether you've said Birkas Hamazon or not, how are you supposed to proceed? And you'll see how this is going to help shape our understanding of the mitzvah of Kriya Shema. Okay, Safek birich al mazono, Safek lo birich. If it's a suffix, whether you've said Birkas Hamazon or not, actually over here it's Safek birich. Let's see. Hold on a second. You're right. Yeah, on your food. You're right. You're not sure whether you said Birkas Hamazon or not. Tzarech levarich, that you have to go back and bench. And how do I know this? Because it is a mitzvah deoraisa to say Birkas Hamazon. Okay? And like the Charedim writes, V'keven de Birkas Hamazon min haTorah, hakaimelon sveika deoraisa l'chumra. That we have this principle that whenever you have a suffix, whether you've done a mitzvah deoraisa, you have to go back and do it because we have to be machmir. Suffix hispalel, suffix lo hispalel, al yispalel. If a person has a suffix, whether he's davened the amida or not, he should not repeat the amida. Why? Because the amida is, and now the amida is a mitzvah derabanan. It's a rabbinical mitzvah. Now, even though the Rambam writes that there's a mitzvah deoraisa to pray daily, but you only have to daven once a day. You don't have to say the formal Amidah. As long as you say, I love you, Hashem, or please, Hashem, take care of me, you fulfill your mitzvah deoraisa, and you don't have any obligation anymore. There's only a mitzvah derabbanan to say the Amidah 3 times a day, and therefore, if you're misuppak, whether I did the Amidah or not, which is a little strange, but I guess maybe, you may have been a little fadrate, then you don't have to repeat it. Udalaka Rabbi Yochanan, but this is not like Rabbi Yochanan. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan, ulavaishi yispalel adam kol hayom kulo. He says, Rabbi Yochanan said, if you can daven more, halavai that you should daven the entire day. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, he doesn't view it so much as a mitzvah d'Rabbanan obligation that you have to dispense with, but the mitzvah of prayer is open-ended, and you can pray as much as you want, even though that involves the recital of brachas. So you see already a tension forming between the recital of a bracha in the form of prayer. On the one hand, a bracha has sanctity to it, and a person shouldn't just treat it cavalierly. And therefore, if you're misuppak, whether you have an obligation or not, the first opinion says don't repeat the bracha. But Rabbi Yochanan says that's normally true with a bracha, let's say, on your food. Let's say, a bracha rishona that you have to make on an apple. Did I say ha'etz? Did I not say ha'etz? Okay, that's an obligation. But when it comes to prayer, Rabbi Yochanan says, halavai that you should pray the entire day. Prayer is open-ended. Anytime you enter into prayer with Hashem, you're doing something virtuous. Now, this has ramifications in very strong ramifications in halacha. If a person is misuppak, whether he said, let's say, Yala v'yavo or not, does he have to go back and repeat it? So normally we say, let's say, because it's Yantif, and I don't know whether I said Yala v'yavo or not in my Amida. Halachically, we paskin that you have to go back and say Shmona Esrei. Why? Because we assume, based on your regularity of recital, that if you're not sure whether you said it or not, in all likelihood, you didn't say it. But let's say you have a legitimate suffix where there's no issue of regularity. I'm trying to think of the example. It'll come to me eventually. There are times where the poskim say that you can be somech on this opinion of Rabbi Yochanan of ulavai sheyispalel adam kol hayom kulo to allow you to repeat the Hamidah, because even though that's not an opinion that we paskin like, but you can use it as a tseruf, you can use it as sometimes an additional argument to grant you permission to go ahead and daven. Let's say, for example, a person is misuppak, whether he knows that he forgot to daven, but he's not sure whether it was an oines or whether it was a shogeg. We paskin that if a person had a legitimate onus, so for example, he was sick and physically did not have the wherewithal to pray, he doesn't have to make up that prayer. Let's say a person is misuppak, was I really an onus that I simply couldn't, or could I have pushed myself and done it? So in that kind of situation, I think there are poskim who say that you can be lenient and you can recite the Amida as a second Amida as a makeup for what you missed at the next tefillah, based on the principle of ulavai sheyispalel adam kol hayom kulo. Okay. Lama she'ein tefillah mapsedes. And why is that? Like the Charedim says, she'ena kisha'ar bracha she'ena tzricha mishum debakashas rachamimi. It's not like other types of brachas where you dispense with an obligation that's only rabbinic. But here you're asking God for divine mercy, and that's something that you can do all the time. Now, so that's the issue with the Amida. You see this tension in the Amida, whether it's simply the recital of a bracha, which is d'Rabbanan, suffix d'Rabbanan l'kula, or whether it has a special quality of rachamim, which allows you to do it as much as you'd like. According to Rabbi Yochanan, by the way, you could daven even if you don't have a suffix. You could daven multiple times. Let's say I daven Shachris at the 6:45 minyan, but I'm so inspired that when I stick around the building and I come to the 8:30 and I see people davening, I'm just chalishing to join them, right? Halavai, we should feel that way. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, you could daven again. Go ahead, make yourself at home. Now, clearly we don't paskin that way, but at least that's an opinion to be reckoned with. So safek kara, safek lo kara. Now, what if a person has a safek whether he's recited Kriya Shema? What is his status? Min hada. So you should be able to infer the halacha from the following brisa that we learned above. Hakore kodem lachein lo yatsa yidei chovasa. He says that if a person recited Kriya Shema, we saw this previous brisa, if a person recited Kriya Shema before the time that Kohanim go to eat their truma, meaning before Tzeis HaKochavim, you have not fulfilled your obligation. Remember, and that's why we asked the question, if you're not fulfilling your obligation, why do they read Kriya Shema at Ma'ariv in the synagogues when they daven before Tzeis? And the Gemara had answered the question by saying to have divrei Torah and divrei Emunah precede the Amidah to put you in the right frame of mind, not to fulfill the mitzvah of Kriya Shema. Now, so the Gemara reasons like this: the Kodim Lachein Lav Safeku, V'Hatamar Tzarech Likros. So so you haven't fulfilled your obligation. Now think about it for a second. There's an entire period before nightfall, which is called what? Bein Hashmashos. Now, Bein Hashmashos is considered to be a suffix whether it's day or whether it's night. So it's clearly a suffix whether it's night or not. If you recite Kriya Shema before it says HaKochavim, you're not reciting it during the daytime, you're reciting it during a period which is suffix Yom, suffix Laila. And yet the Mishnah says, the Brisa says, you haven't fulfilled your obligation. So don't you see from here that if you have a suffix about Kriya Shema, you always have to go l'chumra. So doesn't that prove the point? So the Gemara answers that Hada Amra Zos Omeres, this teaches us Safek Kara, Safek Lo Kara, Tzarech Likros. That if you have a suffix, whether you've recited Kriya Shema or not, you have to go back and recite it. Now you sort of have to think for a moment, like, why wouldn't I think to repeat Kriya Shema? Kriya Shema is not a bracha, so it's a little bit problematic. Why would I think that this would be something that I would not be allowed to repeat? So it seems like what the Gemara is saying is not that so much that there would be a prohibition to repeat it like a bracha, but rather, could I rely on the fact that if I read it before then, it's only a suffix and therefore I can be mekel. So it sounds like that's really what the Gemara's point is. When it comes to a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, even though there's no prohibition in repeating it, you're not obligated to repeat it because, you know what, it's only rabbinic, and as long as you think that there's a possibility that you fulfilled the mitzvah, you're not obligated to do it again. But with Kriya Shema is a mitzvah deoraisa based on uveshoch bicha uvekumecha, and therefore, if you have a suffix, whether you fulfilled that mitzvah, suffix deoraisa lechumra, you have not fulfilled your obligation, and you have to go back and read it.
Rabbi, something to Rabban. I know we say Lakula, but you say you can, according to Rabbi Yochanan, you can daven again. You're saying brach, like you can say brachas again. You can say Baruch Shemar again. You're like
Oh, I forgot it's Rosh Chodesh today. I'm so sorry. Okay, we have to go.
like you can repeat. You can say daven as much as you want. So if you go to the 8:30, you have to walk by the building, you can throw your tefillin again, make brach on your tefillin.
No, I didn't say.
That's-
I didn't say to make another bracha on the tefillin.
But
Tefillin,
davening, you have
yeah.
davening and brachas and davening.
So the other brachos not, but the Amida you could. Let's say you feel inspired and you want to daven a second Amida according to Rabbi Yochanan, you're allowed to.